Dear students, let us begin the lesson, The Snake and the Mirror, and it is written by the Sultan of Stories, Vaikkom Muhammed Basheer, who is fondly remembered as Bepu Sultan and is well known with his profound and simple writing, and he has marked his presence as a short story writer, novelist, humanist, and also as a freedom fighter. He is noted for his down-to-earth style of writing that made him equally popular among literary critics as well as the common man. His works are full of satire, sarcasm, and humor. Love, humanity, poverty, and harsh realities of life all find their place in his works. His notable works include ബാല്യകാലസഖി, ശബ്ദങ്ങൾ, പാത്തോമ്മയുടെ ആട്, മതിലുകൾ, എൻ്റെ ഉപ്പൂപ്പയ്ക്കൊരാന ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു, ജന്മദിനം, അനർഘനിമിഷം, etc. He was awarded the Padma Shri in 1982. The story, The Snake and the Mirror, highlights the need for the blend and peaceful coexistence of human beings and all creatures with nature. And it also tells us that fear of death makes a person realize how futile the worldly achievements are. The story is a narrative within the narrative. The writer tells us the story which was told to him by a homeopathic doctor. The doctor is narrating the story. One day, the doctor and his friends had a heated discussion about snakes. At that time, he asked his friends if anyone had ever been wrapped up by a cobra. The audience became silent on hearing the word cobra due to fear. Next comes a narration about his experience. Students, in the second paragraph, we come to know the time is 10 o'clock and it was a hot summer night. He just entered his rented room after his dinner from a restaurant. He opened the door and soon he heard sounds from the roof. The audience are informed that rats and he shared the room. So, quite naturally, the sounds were made by rats from the room. It was an unelectrified room, so he lighted a kerosene lamp. In the third paragraph, he narrates in detail about his financial setup and his belongings. He was a doctor who had just completed his medical practice and therefore his income was meager. Meager means less, small, lacking in quantity and quality. Then he very frankly tells his friends that he had only 60 rupees, a few shirts and dhotis, and a black coat which he always wore, symbolizing a doctor. He was very tired when he reached the room. He changed his clothes and hung the coat and his dirty, dull vest on the hook on the wall. It was really hot, so he opened the windows, and his room was a tiled roof with long supporting gables and with no ceiling. A gable is the triangular portion of a wall at the end of a pitched roof. He says there was a regular traffic of rats, which means rats moved freely through the tiles and the beams of the roof. He lay down to sleep but could not sleep because of the terrible heat. So he got up and went out, but not a leaf was moving. In his own words, the wind god seemed to have taken time off, which means even the wind has taken leave from its duty. In the fifth paragraph, he sat down on a chair because he could not sleep and took out his medical reference book, the Materia Medica, from the box kept under a table. Remember, the story took place many years ago. There were no TV, mobile in those days to spend time. So, our poor doctor thought of reading his professional book. So he began to read it. But the mirror and the comb on the table did not allow him to read it. What will happen if there is a mirror in front of us? Of course, people are fascinated by the mirror and its reflection. And if the person is a teenager and a youth, no wonder. They spend hours admiring themselves in different angles. Am I right? But at present, mobile camera has taken a small part of its role. Anyway, our homeopath is enjoying his beauty, looking in the mirror. He openly admits that he was a great admirer of beauty. He combed his hair and decided to make himself more handsome. In the 7th paragraph, we can see him watching himself closely in the mirror. Then he made up his mind to
I will shave daily and grow a thin mustache to look more handsome. After all, I am a bachelor and a doctor.
Then he smiled and he was impressed by his smile. He took another earth-shaking decision.
Oh, not bad. My smile is super. So I will always keep an attractive smile on my face. After all, I am a bachelor and a doctor.
He was proud of his looks. Again came that noise from above.
Oh, fed up with these rats. Stop running up and down. Go to
He
sleep.
was unconcerned about it. His thoughts shifted from self-admiration to marrying a fat, rich lady doctor.
He had to be fat for a valid reason. If I make some silly mistake and need to run away, she should not be able to run and catch me.
With these wonderful thoughts, he resumed his seat. Resume means continue after a pause or interruption. Suddenly, he heard a dull thud sound, as if a rubber tube had fallen. For a fraction of a moment, he did not worry. Still, he turned his head to look what it would be. By the time a fat snake wriggled on the chair and then to his shoulder. He says the snake landing on his shoulder and he turning back were simultaneous. Simultaneous means occurring at the same time. All his dreams melted in a second. He could not jump, tremble, or cry out. The snake slithered along his shoulder and coiled around his left arm above the elbow. The hood was spread out and its head was nearly 3 or 4 inches away from his face. He held his breath, and in the dim light of the kerosene lamp, he seemed to look like a stone image in the flesh. There was no one to help him. He understood the need of the hour. His mind was active and alert. Only God could save him. He cannot cry aloud or pray. Any slightest movement would provoke the snake to strike him. So he wrote in his imagination, in bright letters, "O God," outside his little heart. Now the snake has gripped tightly on his left arm, to which he compares a thick leaden rod or a rod made of molten fire. He seems to lose all his physical power and confidence. Anyway, death was sure, he felt. He thought what medicine he would apply or take if the snake bit him. At this point, he realized one fact, that there was no medicines in his room, even to treat him in an emergency. He pitied at himself. He stamped himself as a poor, foolish, stupid doctor. Thus, the encounter with the snake transformed the doctor from a vain and foolish person into a humble, God-fearing man. For a moment, he forgot the critical condition he was in, and a feeble smile bloomed on his lips. The feeble smile indicates his acceptance of folly and vanity that governed his life. In the 16th paragraph, he tells that God appreciated it. The doctor felt that God liked the doctor's realization of his mistakes. By God's grace, something favorable happened. The snake seemed to see its reflection in the mirror. The homeopath doubted whether the snake was admiring its beauty, just like him a few minutes back. He thought the snake may be taking serious decisions about drawing a mustache, using an eyeshadow, mascara, and wearing a vermilion spot on his forehead. He says he doesn't know if the snake was a male or a female. At any cost, the snake uncoiled and slowly slithered into his lap and crept on the table, then towards the mirror. Now, the homeopath, who was like a stone image, transformed into a man of flesh and blood. Immediately he got up and ran for his life, still holding his breath, into the darkness, and stopped only when he reached his friend's house. From there, he smeared oil on his body and had a good bath and rest. But he made up his mind not to stay in that rat-infested rented room anymore. So the next day, he returned with his friends to take all his belongings and to shift to a new room. But to his surprise, there was nothing to carry from there, except his dirty vest.
What was that?
My vest.
The fellow had such a sense of cleanliness. The rascal could have taken it and used it after washing it with soap and water.
Everything was taken away by a thief on the previous night. All his friends who were listening to the frightful episode were relieved from their tension. But they had some more doubts to clear.
Doctor, is your wife very fat?
No, she's a thin, greedy person with the gift of a sprinter.
Doctor, when you ran, did the snake follow you? Did you see the snake the next day, doctor?
I have never seen it since. It was a snake which was taken with its own beauty.